The moment I try to pivot the idea was the moment that I decided to really quit my job. That brings me a really big trouble.
Hello and welcome back to Indie Bites, the podcast where I bring you stories of fellow indie hackers in 15 minutes or less. Today I'm joined by Damon Chen, who's the founder of Testimonial, a product that collects video testimonials that he launched back in December 2020 and has grown it to 13k MRR since then. Damon quit his stable job of 8 years at Cisco to pursue his dream of building a better life for himself as an indie hacker. This didn't come easy for Damon, as he launched several products and made zero revenue before hitting big with Testimonial. He's also built some other fantastic products such as Embed.so and Channel.so, as well as inquiring Supportman or fellow indie hacker Noah Bragg. We cover all of his projects along with how it finally worked out for him with Testimonial. But before we got into it, I've got a very interesting new sponsor for you today, and that is Podq, which solves a big problem for me and likely for you listening too. So when you discover a podcast while on Twitter or browsing the internet, how do you save it? It's super awkward to get your phone out, go into your podcast app, search for the show, and then either subscribe or add it to your queue. Podq lets you save audio from anywhere around the web, from podcasts to YouTube videos and more. Just save the link and it will automatically sync to your podcast app of choice. Podq is the missing listen later app for the audio on the web. There's a 15-day trial, then $5 a month afterwards, and use code IndieBytes to sign up to get an extra month free. Head to podq.fm, that is podqueue.fm, or hit the link in the show notes to give it a try. Let's get into this episode. Damon, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you. I've been following you for a while. I've been following since the IndieLog days. I remember my friend Dave Miranda put me onto IndieLog. I made my first video. I thought it was a fantastic product you were building. Take me back to then, when you were building IndieLog, some of your other projects like Howdy, Influencer, and Backlogs. Talk me through your process of building these projects. Were you still working at the time? And do you think any of those could have been successful?
Sure. So IndieLog was first built in the beginning of the pandemic because I worked for Cisco, and because back then, almost all the employer asked their employee to work from home. So it made me really lonely. I like to be active on indie hackers, but it is always text-based, and I want to have a much warmer feeling. So the video is the way that probably can solve the problem. So that's why I built IndieLog. Back then, the original name was called Lonely Dev, and I want to make it a video-focused community where people can just upload a very short video to say what they have done in the past day. So that's why I built IndieLog. And after that, I built several other projects, as you mentioned, Backlogs and Howdy. And those are sub-quest projects that I just want to reset my mind, just want to get distractions so that I won't get burned out from a single project. Building side projects is really a great way for me to get myself distracted and not really to get burned out. So just keep building projects. And as I said, I was still employed and I got my bi-weekly paycheck. So I don't have really, pressure to make money out of it. And not to mention that IndieLog is a community, and I just don't want to charge my community members there or my friends.
Well, you touched on a really good thing there, an interesting point, which is building for fun and your enjoyment. You are building these projects to avoid burnout, to take your mind off things, and we sometimes hustle really hard on our side projects trying to make revenue, but you had that paycheck and you were just building for fun. I hope that people can still keep that essence of fun when they are building, not only when they're making revenue from their products, but at the start. Enjoy the process of building interesting things. Now, Damon, before you started IndieLog and these other projects that I've been aware of, when you were at Cisco, the 8 years you were there, did you build any other sort of side projects, little things that you were doing on the side?
I was even trying to, not even a technical product. I even, try to become, merchant on eBay or, Shopify. Try to make money. Or I even try to become a photographer, try to make money. So entrepreneurship is always in my mind. And of course, my background is technical, and I just, instead of doing totally different stuff, and I still try to, be on my track to see if I can make any money.
So after these side projects that we talked about, IndieLog, Howdy, Influencer, Backlog, none of these made any revenue for you. So you could say from a financial perspective, these failed. But then another project came along called Testimonial, which you made 3K from in just 10 days. Talk me through the process of coming up with the idea, launching that, and then making the 3K in those 10 days.
Okay, the idea was directly a pivot from IndieLog, because as I said, IndieLog shipped a lot of cool features into IndieLog. Of course, the core one, the main one is the video uploading, hosting, and streaming. The moment I tried to pivot the idea was the moment that I decided to really quit my job. That brings me a really big trouble, which is I'm gonna lose my paycheck. I'm gonna lose my job. So at that moment, I really feel a big pressure to make some money, at least be ramen profitable. I also don't want to push myself too hard because otherwise I got burned out. So I started to pivot my idea. If I spend another several months to make a product, and in the end it turned out a failure, and that is a huge opportunity cost for me. So I always think that if I can leverage what I already built, reuse as much code as possible, and that's even better, right? So because I'm a maker, I keep building projects, even that I don't make money out of any of my projects. For me, I don't have marketing team, I don't have sales team. So how can I sell those projects? Social proof is immediately jumped on top of my mind, and I think if I can make a product that can quickly help other indie makers, other business owners to quickly collect testimonials, especially video testimonials, and also provide a solution for them to distribute the testimonials onto their website. And that will probably, I'm not sure, that will probably make a hit. And not to mention that I can reuse quite a lot of code from IndieLog, and I've actually made the MVP within a week and then launched it on Product Hunt. And that's why you said that I made 3,000 within the first a week.
Damon, that's amazing, because often people would have to go down the route of validation first, of finding out that this is a problem that people want, that needs solving, people want to pay for. Did you do any of that, or did you go straight in with an idea that you think was going to make money and then just launched it on Product Hunt?
Yeah, I think this is the second route. I don't even spend my time on validating the idea, because the time that I spend on validating the idea, and I can already just build the idea. If people pay you money, and that's the ultimate validation, instead of people reply your thread and say, oh, that's really cool idea, and I'm gonna buy. But in the end, they will never come back, and they will never become a customer.
So you hit a nerve here with Testimonial. It was, as you say, very clear validation, 3K in 10 days. From then, you grew it pretty quickly. Now it's at sort of 13K MRR. What growth tactics did you use over the next 6 to 12 months to grow that?
So I just try to quickly iterate the product based on the true feedback. The first 10 days is mostly the lifetime deal. And after a lifetime deal, and I actually see the demand, I think, and I'm a huge fan of the recurring business model, and try to see if I can turn the product into a SaaS product. So I just announced it that 3 days later, there will be no lifetime deal, and it will only be subscription based. And of course, the announcement also brings me some couple of thousand revenue. And after the lifetime deal ends, and I only focus on the subscription model. And yeah, there were quite a few things that I did. I test my pricing quite a lot. And in the beginning, the pricing was $10 per month, and I just doubled it. And until now, it is $60 per month. And I increased the price quite a lot. That really helps speed up revenue growth. And another thing that I did was, I'm a solo founder, and I can't really spend a lot of time, some manual stuff, like doing some code outreach. So that's why I try to implement as growth hack into my product, so that make my product fully product-led growth. So there are quite a lot of things, because Testimonial has the premium version, but premium version is feature limited and quota limited. For premium user, they can collect 2 videos, but from Testimonial point of view, we will never collecting testimonials for you. So if a user, my customer, collect the third one, they have to upgrade in order for them to see those extra ones. So that's one of the growth tactics. And of course, people can embed the testimonial into their website, and if they're using the freemium version, and there is always a powered by testimonial logo. And I just want to try to automate as much stuff as possible, so that I can fully focus on building the product, and also do some marketing stuff like building public on Twitter, so which is the stuff I really like to do.
Now you're at 13k MRR. Fantastic to see your success with it. And Damon, you've got some other projects. You've launched a few. I guess it's a sort of fulfilling your desire to build things. You were saying earlier that some of your earlier projects, you built them because they were fun. And I see that embed.so and channel.so were kind of that for you. Embed.so is very much using a lot of the code you had from IndieLog and Testimonial,
Totally.
and I think is a really cool product personally. And Channel as well, when you built it, you messaged me when you launched that. It was a fantastic idea, brilliantly executed. So talk me through those projects in particular. Are they making any revenue at the moment? I know you don't spend too much time on them.
eBet also has $150 MRR channel that didn't bring me any revenue yet, but I think the output is always depend on how much input that I give to those projects, because I didn't really spend much of my time working on my side hustles, because for me right now the testimonial is my main focus. So yeah, it is still growing, but not really fast.
Do you think you would like to spend any more time on growing them to sort of de-risk yourself for a chance where testimonial might drop or plateau and you have these other projects that might bring you in a bit of revenue?
There are still some really cool features that I just noted down for embed also. For me, that I just don't want to dedicate my effort on a single thing. For me, if I choose to do something on embed also, I will only do it if testimonial can take some benefits out of it. So if it is only for embed also, and I just don't want to spend too much time on it, because it's just 2% of my whole revenue.
So you've got all of these projects, all of these strings to your bow, Damon. You're obviously spending a lot of time on testimonial. That's your focus. It's doing well. And you've recently acquired Supportman, or fellow indie hacker Noah Bragg. Tell me why you bought that, acquired it off him, and like how that's doing for you now. Where does that fit into the mix of Damon Chen's projects?
Okay. I think Testimonial has a lot of potential or integrating with some big ecosystems, and Intercom is one of them, because if you're familiar with Intercom, and at the end of the support conversation, and Intercom will pop up some emoji asking the customers to leave a review. And for Testimonial, I think if a customer leave a 4-star or 5-star review, and it means that the customer is on the peak of their excitement, and they're more likely to, if you follow up with them asking for a testimony, and they will probably do it. So for Supportman, it's also a cool Intercom app. One of my friends, also a very active person on Twitter. Supportman, what it does is it will sync all those Intercom feedback to your Slack channel. In case that a really angry customer leave a 1-star or 2-star review, and you can, your support team can immediately follow up with that not really happy customer and see what's going on. So I think it will be a really good complement to support testimonial, because testimonial will cover those happy customers, and meanwhile the Supportman will cover those angry customers. And I think it was just a coincidence, because back then I was just starting the Intercom stuff, and just sent out a tweet saying he wants to sell Supportman, and because we are in the Slack channel, so that I can just directly message him. And he originally asked for a 30K something, and I just negotiated a little bit, and I think we get a deal at the 20K, and it happens pretty quick, because I already know him, and he's a legit people. The deal, I think it happens less than 2 hours, so it's pretty quick.
And also, Damon, over the past year, you've absolutely blown up on Twitter. I remember when I first found you, again through David Miranda, when you were building IndieLog, you're at about 1,000 followers. You're now at 27,000, almost 30,000. What's been your strategy for growing on Twitter, and do you use any good tools to help you grow?
I can also say there is a strategy, because for me there's always a strategy, which is to just be genuine, be humble, and be an underdog. And because for me, I'm not a top talent. I also said in my past tweet that I'm just a mediocre software engineer. I spent 8 years working for Cisco, but I'm still not even promoted to tech lead or something higher title. So I'm definitely a mediocre. So I'm trying to just be humble, try to be an underdog, and try not to teach people, but just try to share my own story just to resonate with the rest of people. So that's my strategy.
Damon, I finish every episode on 3 recommendations: a book, a podcast, an indie hacker entrepreneur that you follow or been inspired by.
One of the recent books that I read is Get Acquired, written by Andrew Gastacki. Podcast I listened to My First Million. Indie hacker entrepreneur is definitely Peter Levels, my all-time favorite. His 12 startups in 12 months really inspired me, so that's why I built several projects before really launching Testimonial.
Well, Damon, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story. Appreciate you coming on.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Indie Bites. All links for everything discussed will be in the show notes, as always. If you want to save audio from the web, check out today's sponsor, PodQ. And if you want to hear more from me and my journey, I have another weekly podcast called No More Mondays, which you'll find in all good podcast players. See you next week.